by Riverside.
And thanks for joining us for another episode of Leadership Bites podcast, where we share the inspiring and empowering stories of current and emerging women leaders across diverse career stages, industries, and backgrounds. Today, we're welcoming Desiree Knight. Desiree is the Senior Director of Meetings and Events at the American Psychological Association, which is the leading scientific and professional organization representing psychology in the United States. They have more than 157,000 researchers, educators, clinicians, consultants, and students as their members. Desiree is a well-respected leader in the meetings and hospitality field, and in addition to her day job, she has also served as the board chair for PCMA, the Professional Convention Management Association, which is really a big deal in the meetings and events industry. I'm so pleased to have her with us today. Welcome, Desiree.
Thank you. I'm honored that you were able to pull all of that information.
I do.
Power of technology.
I'm a PI in my spare time, right? So, so Desiree, it really is a pleasure to talk with you today. You have done some really impressive things in your career, and meetings and events is one of those industries that really runs the gamut. It is a big deal in the association space and the nonprofit sector overall, but not just in those sectors. They're a corporate meeting planner, so it really does run the gamut. And so I was excited to talk with you today because I think it's going to provide some insight into a useful leadership journey for a lot of people who may be in the field now and for those who might be interested. So I'd love it if you could tell us a little bit about your leadership journey and how you came to be in your current role.
I started actually by happenstance. I'm originally from Los Angeles, and I was interested in doing meetings in some sort of space, but not quite sure how to go about finding a job. And there was a job listed for a booth sales agent assistant. And for those that are in the space of meetings, a lot of associations have exhibits. And at the time, I didn't even know what an association was. So I applied for that job, got it. And then I met someone that lived in the Washington, D.C. area that I kind of fell in love with. And so I ended up moving from Los Angeles to D.C., getting my first association job with the Society of Plastics as an administrative assistant. And lo and behold, part of that job required me to plan meetings. And I also have to say at the time, I didn't realize the spectrum of what meetings would actually look like in the future and how it connects people with the actual association community and how they collaborate at meetings to further their particular cause. So that particular cause was plastics, and I stayed there for about a year. And then I found a job with Enterprise Foundation, which if you know anything about the Enterprise Foundation, they were responsible for gathering homes or getting homes for lower income communities, which was founded by Rouse. And so I worked there for about a year, and then I answered another ad for a job working for an association that dealt with railroad engineers. And that particular job literally changed my life. So at the time, the CEO of that association told me that I needed to build some sort of community that could help me in my future request to understand meetings further. And so I ended up joining PCMA. And boy, I had no idea that I would develop my family from PCMA, my meetings education backbone, my understanding of meetings and how meetings influence the community for railway engineers and the community as a whole when you think about it. Fast forward to 16 years later, and that CEO exec actually left, and I thought, I've been a member for ASAE for 16 years, and it's time for me to figure out how I'm going to make that organization useful to me because I've dove heavily into the PCMA world. And so I applied to become a DELP scholar. And so that's the diversity
Executive, yeah.
executive leadership program. Thank you. I needed
Uh-huh.
a little help there for some reason.
Yeah.
And I got it on the first time out. And so when I say changing the trajectory of my life and my concept of what it means to lead an organization in the meetings world, that DELP program taught me that. It
Wow.
also told me there was an opportunity for me to even think higher in my volunteer role with PCMA and to think about, huh, maybe it is possible for me to be chair. And so I started my work on what that would look like and how it would fit for me in my volunteer role.
So, did you always have that intuitive knowledge that you would somehow lead people, lead programs?
Well, I was told from a young girl that I had always had that kind of backbone to lead people and to guide people into different environments. And
Yeah.
so I knew that I would be a leader. I just didn't know how I was going to define that in my space and in additional spaces. DELP actually provided the umbrella for me to understand that although I do meetings, I have a very important key role in the associations that I work for.
Hmm.
The engineering association was a small association, but in the grand scheme of things, my department handled 56% of the budget. And so once I realized what I could do with that knowledge on understanding that I had a huge stakehold in the association that I work for, I realized that I had an opportunity that I could lead the organization to different areas to understand the importance of meetings.
Yeah, that's powerful. Yeah, 56%. That is not small,
That is
right?
not like literally, I would say to myself, oh God, I'm providing income for the
Yes.
staff.
Yes.
I was
People's
responsible for their
jobs.
income. Yes.
Absolutely.
It took ASAE for me to understand that, though. I have to give them credit on that because when you think about the CAE, and CAE is Certified Association Executive Exam, when you take that exam, you understand the importance of how meetings fits within the business unit for associations.
Yeah.
And you also understand that meetings industry professionals, if they really sat back and they thought about it, we are part of governance, we're part of finance, we are part of membership, we're part of marketing. We My department holds a lot of the key essential items to make an association work.
Yes, I totally agree with that. So, in terms of developing your journey as a leader in your space, was there anything special that you did to get ready for that? Did you take any special courses? Did you
Oh,
pursue a particular degree?
yes. I People who know my history know that I didn't really go back and finish my college degree until 2021. But one of the things that, and I keep mentioning DELP because it was the catalyst for me to think outside of the box, blow up the box, recreate the box, think about the box differently. Because I realized there was something that was missing that I needed, and that was I was able to hire or have a coach for the first time, an executive coach that actually guided my concept and my ability to lead in a different way. And so I am so thankful. I think it's important that people have a coach, that you also have a mentor, and you have a sponsor. And DELP actually gave me all three of those pieces in order for me to think about how I fit in this world in leadership. Because leadership, I think everyone has a core to be a leader, but not everybody can do it successfully. And so I also have to give credit to my DELP class because all of them are overachievers. I feel like we're all overachievers. And there's an opportunity for me to bounce ideas off of any one of them. And they give me great guidance on how to apply leadership skills and how to make sure that people feel comfortable and that they're able to talk to you and that you're able to lead by example.
That's awesome. Yes, and I would agree with you. I know your DELP class, and and I would agree with you that every single person in that class is a leader and really has done impressive things in their professional spaces as well. So you definitely are a special group, and I appreciate you lifting up the Diversity Executive Leadership Program as well, because I think it is important for people to understand that folks don't just walk into these leadership roles. There
No.
is a preparation process.
Oh my God, Cam, you hit the nail on the head when you say that because I've always thought that I was great at providing advice and great at giving my vision on what I think how something should look and how we should approach it.
Yeah.
But I also think that it is important that you learn how to communicate the way that your team communicates. And what I mean by that is, I have a team person right now who is very shy. So I have to learn how to bring that out in her, be able to communicate with her the best way that she can understand what I'm trying to give her as an example and help her understand that she is brilliant and provide guidance on where you can go get additional education so that you can continue to uplift your skill set. That requires a skill. That's not something that you could just walk into and say, hey, I'm just going to help guide this person's career. That is not something coming into my leadership role that I knew inherently. It is something that I literally had to learn how to do myself. And I'm very thankful for my coach that helped me see there's a way that you could do that. You can always remember that you're dealing with a human and that you always lead with grace. As I develop my team, that I'm always thinking about they are human first, and you have to be an authentic and sincere person to help them advance.
I thank you for that. I love that because leadership is all the rage right now.
It
Everybody
is.
wants to talk
Mhm.
about leadership, but not everybody wants the burden of being a leader.
That is very
And
true.
yeah, I am using this podcast as a platform to share information, but also I'm learning myself in the process of talking with all of you accomplished leaders. I think it's also a learning experience and a learning journey for me as well. I don't care what your title is. The hardest job you're ever going to have is leading people. Because people, whether we want to believe it or not, they bring their whole selves into the work environment.
But Cam, there's something you just said that I so resonate with, and it was something I had a conversation with one of my staff members last night about, that is, I am a person that is constantly learning. So when
Yeah,
they question a decision that I have made, I can't take that personally. I can
yeah,
actually look at it and say, huh, there might be a different way or a concept or approach I can do with where we're trying to go. There is always 15 ways to do something. I think that that's a key for a leader. You
yeah.
have to have excellent listening skills. I
Mhm.
feel like there are some leaders that do not listen to their team and then they end up in trouble. That's a horrible leadership example.
Yeah.
I try to sit down and really talk. One of the things I'm going to do seriously is to sit down and talk to you. I'm not
Mhm,
just going to brush you off. I really want to hear how you feel about your job and
mhm.
how it's going to resonate to make sure that we're getting to what our strategy, what our plan is, how it resonates with the mission and vision of the organization. Because one thing is for sure, if it doesn't do that, then we shouldn't be doing the work.
That's
You
it.
can't lead if you're doing things that are outside of that strategic plan.
Yeah, yeah. And so, Desiree, along that same line, what advice would you offer to other women who aspire to leadership? And I'm not just talking about young women, because there is a lot of emphasis on young professionals, and I love and uplift and support our young professionals in every sector. But I think sometimes women who are mid-career
Mhm.
and sometimes even senior career get left behind in those discussions because we're still growing, we're still making pivots and learn, to your point, learning things. So what advice would you give a woman at any stage who is aspiring to leadership?
So, a couple of things. One, I'm a late bloomer. I think I've mentioned DELP a million times, but I really didn't get into DELP until um, I was 50. So I feel like even though I had started my career years ago, I don't feel like I really started the leadership journey until I got into DELP and until 50. So first thing is get out of your own way. So when I originally started that application process to see if I could even get into that program, it scared the bejesus out of me, and I almost talked myself out of it. And thank God I didn't. Thank God I had. This is the second thing. Thank God I had a group of people that I could talk to and say, "Hey, I'm thinking about doing this program. Do you think I should do it? Why should I do it?" So I needed someone that was part of my village that would talk me into getting over myself and over that hurdle in order to get to the next level. So that's the second thing. The third thing is always be open to receiving information and criticism. I think that we get stuck in, oh my God, did they really just criticize me on something that I've just done? And it really hurts us to the core. But really, your core village or your core friends, if they are criticizing you on something, they are trying to help you see something that that might be your blind side that you're really not seeing. Take the time to dissect what they're saying to you and have a conversation about it, and don't take it personally. And then fourth, always look for different opportunities. You never know what might be there right in front of you that you are not taking advantage of. If you don't take the time sometimes to slow down, take in what's in front of you, and then take that step, you will miss a golden opportunity. And thank God I slowed myself down enough so that I could really do my research on what I was going to do and how I was going to do it next.
Yeah, I love that. Look, I feel like I keep saying the word love over and over again in this podcast. So listeners, listen, there's a lot of love here that's flowing, but I really do I'm not just saying that. I really do love what you're sharing and these different aspects of your journey, because it's important that we uplift diversity in telling these
Yes.
stories as well. And I shared this in a previous podcast. I was presenting for a society of association executives, one of our regional societies. And I shared with that group that I wasn't one of those kids that jumped into college head first and always knew exactly what I wanted to do and sort of had the whole thing mapped out. So, from that perspective, I would consider myself sort of a late bloomer in the sense that it took me a while to find my passion. But when I did, I jumped in with both feet.
Mhm.
And so many people don't share that. And especially for women, we need to let people know that it is okay if you don't have everything all figured out immediately. Right? Like that is okay. And I feel like that's what your journey is highlighting. But you get there, with the right community and network and things, you get there.
Yeah, so I used to beat myself up because I'm going back to my dope class again. And boy, did they really change my life. I know I keep mentioning them, but all of them, half of them were doctors in my class. And I'm
Wow.
sitting here with no degree.
Yeah.
So in order for me to feel whole, it was always in the back of my mind that I needed to buckle down. And I know that I probably shouldn't say this, but I'm going to say it. Thank God for that pandemic, because it
Oh,
gave me the opportunity to sit down and say to myself, okay, now is the time. You can take 3 or 4 classes. You can knock this out.
mhm.
And knock it out is exactly what I did.
Yeah.
Everybody doesn't have that opportunity where you can just sit back and say, okay, I'm going to sit here and go to class, and I'm going to go to class and work full time. I get that because that's what happened to me.
Yeah. Yeah.
My career led me in a different way where I couldn't go to school. I would start school, I would take a class, and then I wouldn't go back to school. And that's because most of my career I've traveled. Well,
Yeah.
technology has changed so that you can actually I would go on vacation, I would have my laptop, all of my reading materials, and I would get my homework done first, and then I would have fun with vacation. But you
Yeah.
have to figure out what's important to you. And in my case, I have said this to my girlfriends, I needed to get that piece of paper for
Yeah.
me, not for anyone else, because it didn't stop anything as far as my career was concerned. But you have to figure out what's important for you to have before you leave this planet. And that
Yeah.
piece of paper was important to me.
Yeah, I agree with you on that journey. Everybody's journey is going to be different, and you figure out what brings you joy in
Yeah,
the midst of yours, right?
yeah,
And so your motivator is going to be different than mine, and mine's going to be different than somebody else's.
absolutely.
But finding it is the key. And I
Absolutely.
understand what you're saying about the pandemic, and I get where you were going with that. Like nobody is rejoicing that there was devastation and death
No.
and things like that, but in terms of the opportunity to just slow down a little bit
Yes.
and focus. Like, I mean, and you have said nothing different than a lot of people have said, in the sense that, people read books that they would have never had an opportunity to read, had an opportunity to experience. They, connected with people and built community in different ways. So I understand exactly where you're going and what you mean by that.
And I've met people in dance classes at midnight. They
Yes.
needed something different to do. Yeah, just makes
Yes.
you think differently.
Yes. Was this
Mm-hmm.
you mean was it Club Quarantine?
Ooh, club quarantine was my life at midnight. So I
Yes.
would get in the club quarantine and I would see a whole list of people that I know. And I'm like, oh my God. And so you would sit there and
Same,
find your messages.
same.
How to do that before.
Yes, and the purveyor of that, DJ D Nice,
Yes.
he had a great career, but he is also
Yes.
an example of somebody who took advantage of something that he developed during the pandemic
Yes.
in a good way, and built community, and that's still working for his
It
brain. It
is
completely
so working
relaunched
for,
him.
and he did it. He didn't do it for money. He did
Yes,
it for free. And look at his
yes.
brand now. Everybody knows DJ Nice.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, yes. And I'm with you on that, because I also used the pandemic to do something like that. I have wanted to pursue a marketing certification for a really long time, and I never had time to slow down and do it until the pandemic
Yeah.
happened. And so that resonates with me. I completely understand what you mean by that. So, can you share, Desiree, a professional or personal challenge, or even a triumph that you feel really helped you develop as a leader?
Oh, sure. I mean, I in my mind, as you were asking the question, I had a million.
Okay.
So, oh God, how can I share this? Let's just say I was challenged
Hmm.
at one of my associations because I felt like I wasn't getting leadership or lackluster of leadership from an association executive, which made me look outside of myself to figure out how I could be a better leader because I didn't have a good example of what that looked like from that particular leadership group. So it also gave me the opportunity to deal with that issue with my coach. And I don't like to call names, but I have to do a shout out for my coach. Sharon Newport was my coach. I had her for years. And the beautiful thing about Sharon Newport is, for me, is that she would also make me take the time to breathe, pull it from deep within my gut, and discuss whatever the issue was and how I can use that energy so that I could be a better person. That opportunity with her has really changed the way that I talk and deal with people as a whole. I am always going to treat you with kindness. It is important to me that I take the time to listen to individuals. I don't care what sector of life you're walking in. Sharon Newport gave me that. Gave me the opportunity to say, Desiree, you need to slow down. That example alone is what helped me develop who I am today.
And how do you think that it has shaped your approach to leadership? Sort of, how do you see that playing out in your interactions with your staff?
Oh, yeah. So I mentioned one of them, how she's very shy and is always questioning whether or not she's doing the correct job. It has taught me the importance of communicating on their level, and I think I mentioned that earlier. Because if you don't reach them at their level, you will never be able to guide them or lead them. Okay.
Oh, that's really powerful. Thank you for sharing that. And you mentioned before not having that leadership support in some previous situations, and I just wonder what are two essential skills that you think all leaders need right now?
Oh my goodness. Uh, Good listening skills.
Hmm.
I think it's important for you to be able to just humble yourself to listen.
Yeah, yeah.
And then the other part of that is clarity.
Mm,
Mixed messages from leaders is a horrible mix. I think when you communicate with your team that you are clear on what your objectives are
yeah,
and to
yeah.
provide a clear understanding of expectations.
Yeah, that's so important. So
Mhm.
important. And so how do you stay balanced with all of this? Cuz you're supervising people, you are leading meetings and not just leading meetings and events, but you are leading meetings and events at a very very large association. And so listeners, for those of you who are not in the association community, to be working at an association with 157,000 members is a big deal because, most associations are not that large, right? There are some that are, but most are not. Your meetings are bigger, your program needs are bigger. I would imagine your staff is bigger. So there are probably lots of other things that factor into your daily leadership journey that others who are working at smaller organizations may not necessarily have to tackle. They may deal with some of those things, but not at the same scale and scope. So, how do you stay balanced in the midst of it all?
Communication. I
Oh,
think we collaborate. I have several meetings a week based on what's required for whatever the event is.
yeah,
I have a right hand that if I forget something or I need to remember something, that she will remind me, Desiree, you need to do such and such. I really have to give accolades to the team. I think that they do a good job in uplifting what is required for our meetings across all of APA. And
yeah,
so what I mean by that is that they take the time to go meet with staff members, have conversations with them, um, make sure that they are along for the journey, whatever that journey looks like for whatever event it is, and that we provide. I am a stickler for excellent customer service, and that my team provides excellent customer service. And so I think those are the few things that keep me grounded. I'm saying this wholeheartedly and with every fiber of my being. I feel blessed. I feel blessed that I have a staff team that is anxious to get to work. They want to solve problems. They want to figure out how that they can create or develop the best possible event for our attendees. And so, because of that, it gives me the latitude to have deep dive conversations on how we can improve what we provide. And it's really taken to heart on what we're going to provide for the future and how what it's going to look like, creating opportunities for those that are attend our events. So I have to thank my staff team really, that knowing that they're good and that they are focused on what needs to be done to provide a collaborative environment for attendees, it makes my heart sing.
yeah. That's beautiful, and thank you for shouting them out. Again, I'm a big believer that it is so important for leaders to acknowledge their teams.
Oh my
Because
God.
nobody gets there on their own.
Mm-mm, I can't listen. You just heard me say half the time I forget stuff. So they're tugging at me, going, "Did you remember to do such and such?" Because I used to be the person that handled all of the logistics for all of my meetings, and now I have a team that handles that. So
Yeah,
I'm thinking big picture and thinking about how we can be more strategic with what we're offering.
yeah,
They're handling the logistics of all of that vision. And
yeah,
so I couldn't do it without them. I couldn't do my job if they didn't do this job. And so I when I say that I am thankful for the team that Two of them I inherited and one I hired, but we
Mhm.
work so well together. It just makes me happy that we have such collaboration and that we can come to a table and come up with solutions and we're solving problems. That just makes me happy.
Yeah. So something you just said actually opened up another question for me around going from being a, logistical lead
Mhm.
on the team to then becoming a strategic lead. And this is just my personal opinion and observation over the years in different roles. That is a real struggle for
It
some leaders
is. Yes.
to let go of being such a tactical part of the team to be becoming strategic. How did you navigate that? Like, how did you get comfortable? Are you comfortable now? It seems like you are in that space, and if so, how did you get there?
Okay, a couple of things. I'm going to have to confess. I had to take the CAE twice because the first time I was all in the weeds and not understanding. That CAE exam, which is Certified Association exam, has nothing to do with being in the weeds. It's really in a helicopter seat, 30,000 feet above all of the projects or strategic approach for association. So that's the first thing. The second thing is once I realized the difference between sitting in a strategic seat and sitting in a tactical seat and the importance of uplifting what I'm bringing to the table and my skill set, it became easier for me. I don't. I'm going to say this, and I hope I never have to get another job where I have to do logistics. But I hate logistics, only because I really enjoy the strategy from a meeting. How is it going to affect the attendees as a whole? That's what I find my passion in now. How can I bring something that elevates the experience to them? That's going to leave a lasting impression. That's what I love to do, and my team loves to handle all of the logistics. So to me, it's a perfect marriage. I will say, Cam, to answer your question, it took me, I'm going to probably say about 2 or 3 years so that I can get comfortable in, okay, I got to let go of all of this and let the team handle it. The struggle for that was real.
Yeah, I think it is. That's probably true for a lot of leaders, going from a person who is used to contributing in a certain way or at a certain level to
Yes,
now bringing out the best in other people.
yes, yes. Yeah.
That's a real journey,
It is
right?
such a journey, but the fact that I don't want to do it anymore, it made it so much easier. I just really don't. As I was saying to you, I was doing a work plan for one of my staff today, and
Yeah,
I started to add my name to a couple, and I was like, "Why are you adding your team over here to do this?" So let
yeah,
me tell you what they don't want. They don't want Desiree in the weeds.
yeah,
They get into
yeah,
weeds, and I change how they approach their jobs. That's
yeah.
not my job. My job is to help guide them so that they can be their best self. I
Yes.
know that. I know that from in my gut that that's my priority is to make sure that they're safe, comfortable, and that I'm not in their weeds.
Yes, yes. Desiree, how as a leader are you dealing with the evolving and changing workplace? We talked about the pandemic earlier, and things are different. People want to talk about social issues sometimes at work. They want to bring more of their personal selves into the workplace, whereas that used to be very taboo. And, even the working conditions have changed with more hybrid and remote roles in the mix. How has that impacted your journey as a leader?
So here's two things that I want to point out. One is I want you to bring your authentic whole self to work. If you are I know back in yesteryear, you
Mhm.
couldn't come to work if you couldn't talk about your pain, or if you were struggling in a personal relationship or something just happened to your child. That means to me that you're not bringing who you are, and you're not going to be your 100% self at work anyway if you're struggling. But if I could pull you to the side and say, "Hey, I noticed something's going on with you. Do you want to talk about it?" If I open the door for you and you feel like there's trust built between the two of us, guess what? You're going to communicate that to me, and you're going to be better for it. And I'm going to be better for it because I know who you are as a human. Remember, I said we need to give people grace. We can't live in this. We can't talk about it. I'm so glad, and I probably shouldn't mention this, but I'm so glad we are finally talking about that word menopause. When I was going through menopause, which wasn't that long ago, we couldn't talk about it. It was like this hidden, dirty secret. Let's not talk about it. Well, guess what that does? If you're having a hot flash and you're in the middle of a meeting and you're sweating, people are probably looking at you like, what is wrong with you? And not putting into consideration that maybe she's having a hot flash.
Yeah, that's very true. And I haven't taken that journey yet, full disclosure,
Oh,
but
I
I'm happy that it's being talked about because
yeah,
it's going to bring things into perspective and make it easier for women who are about to go on that journey.
yes.
Because a woman will.
Yes,
Yeah.
and I'm so thankful that we're talking about it because as women bodies, we go through a plethora of issues that we can't, that we're not supposed to talk about, but it affects your performance.
Yes. Yes,
And
it does.
if that's affecting your performance, I want you to tell me why you're having an issue so I can help. Do you need a half a day? Do you need a day off?
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
want to be here to support you.
Yeah.
That's my purpose. The second thing that you mentioned was that hybrid. Okay, let me tell you. I remember in the beginning of the pandemic, I was like, I could work from home because AP is 100% remote.
Uh-huh.
But as you see, I miss personality.
Uh-huh.
And me
Mhm.
working from home 100% is not good for my mental health. So
No.
I find different in things so that I can become involved with, or I'll have the team come in when they're around for us to have all in meetings so that we
Yeah.
can have that collaboration
Yeah. Yeah.
in our
That's
space and in
mhm.
each other's face.
Yeah.
I don't think I mean I get it. I get that people want to work from home 100% and I understand that, but how is that helping us as a human race?
Mhm. Mhm.
And for
Yeah.
some it might be fantastic because an introvert probably would be very happy about working 100% remote. But as you
Yeah.
can see, I'm a little extrovert.
Yeah.
I need people.
Yeah. You
Sometimes,
know
not all the time, but I do need people.
You know what I think is really behind a lot now for some people, to your point, for some people it really is about working 100%, from home, and they really want to be in their own space and environment. And I love that you brought up introverts, and sometimes also ambiverts, who are a sort
Oh
of a
yeah.
mixture of the two,
Mm.
and they really do enjoy that solace, and sort of just connecting with the team when they have to. But I think for a lot of people, what is being said is, I want to be 100% remote, but what is really meant is, I want more autonomy, I
Oh
want
yeah.
more flexibility, I
Yeah.
want my leadership to trust me. You know what I mean? To get the work done, when I need to get the work done, and not feel as though, I have to be in the office and be watched in order to get it done. I think that is what a lot of workers really want to say, but maybe are not articulating it that way.
So I have to say that I was blessed. I think I mentioned I had a leadership person that supported me that did support me and the staff, and
Yeah.
we were doing remote work when it was unheard of. So
Yeah.
this philosophy, and I have taken this to heart. As long as you're doing your work, I don't care if you come in the office or not.
Mhm.
I want
Mhm.
the end product, and I need you to be happy doing it.
Yeah, yeah. And there were some associations that were, everybody thinks that remote work was a big for
Mm,
profit thing. But no, there
no.
were some associations that were leading
Uh,
on that.
yes,
Um,
mine was. We had two
yeah,
or 3 days. Yes.
yeah.
And we determined that we had flex on who went in on what days.
Yeah, and I think it was also some others, like, and if I hope that I'm not misquoting this, but organizations like ASCO, which are around the Oncology Society of Clinical Oncology,
Yes.
they were in what was called a ROWE environment, if I'm remembering correctly, ROWE, results only work environment, probably a decade and a half before
Oh, the
the
pandemic.
pandemic ever happened. Yes. And
Yeah,
so, again, I think what it's all coming down to is change, right? And the
yes,
evolution
yes.
of the workplace. And I love your approach because it sounds very balanced. You find
Mhm.
a way to connect with people when it's reasonable, but without asserting your need to connect, very frequently on the whole team. So you're giving people space to be and to do what they need to do as well, which I think is admirable.
I think you have to be flexible
Yeah.
to meet
Yeah.
people where they are. Notice I keep saying it's important to treat people with grace and
Yeah.
kindness.
Yeah. I
And
love that.
in order to get your staff to understand that you are leading by example, I keep
Yeah.
repeating that. I'm sorry, I keep repeating it, but you have to put them at the core of all of your decisions.
I agree.
But
Is there anything, Desiree, that you wish you had known before you became a leader?
yeah, that is not that hard.
Uh-huh.
Leadership books, I'm sitting there going, oh my God, I don't know if I could do this. It's
Hmm.
really not that hard. If you think about what I just said a minute ago, if
Yeah.
you put your team first,
Yeah.
it's not a hard process or a decision.
Yeah, yeah, I love that, and that's such a powerful thing because again, it's a barrier. People are
It
very
is
afraid
so,
of the unknown.
I mean, literally, I was shooting myself in the foot going, I can't do that. But
Yeah,
then I'm my worst enemy, which is why I love my village. It is so important that everyone has someone that is their personal board of directors.
so talk a little bit about that. What do you mean when you say that? Just for people who might be listening and not really
Yeah,
know
so
what
what
that
I mean
means.
by that is I have a core. Well, we know that I have my DELP class because I've mentioned that over and over again. So they really are part of my CEOs and my board of directors who I bounce stuff off all the time. But I also have a very smaller group of female leaders that run the gamut, CEOs, or they are in the meetings industry, but they're at the top of the game of the meetings industry. And when I need help or guidance or need to talk through or bounce an idea off of them, I go to them directly and I say, "Hey, you have a minute? Can I call? Can I send you an email?"
Yeah,
I
yeah,
interact with them and they interact with me constantly to ensure that we are all okay. So
yeah,
I have done this dinner with two of them. I'm going to say probably the last 4 or 5 years. I do it once a month. And it is an opportunity for us to, I call it the Wusa dinner, but it is an opportunity for us to bounce ideas off of each other about our boards or our CEOs, or one is a CEO, or about staff, the challenges that we're having. We'll even talk about what challenges we are having based on the cities that we might be going into and how we can solve whatever issue or problem that we are dealing with at that moment in time. So when I
yeah.
say your village, it is literally the group of people that help you grow and be a better person.
Love it, love it. And what advice would you offer to professionals who right now might be struggling to find joy in their career or in their leadership journey?
Well, then I have a question for you. If you can't find joy in your leadership or your career journey, where are you? And who is
Ooh,
supporting you in that journey? Are you
mm,
in the right space for you to grow? That's my question for you.
that's good.
And
And
if you're not,
finally,
if you come back to no to all those questions that you're not being supported, that you're not happy where you are, but maybe you're not in the right place. I believe in you should never be miserable because one thing I know for sure that we are going to leave this earth and it's too short. So don't stay in a journey that's not supporting who you are.
yeah, yeah, that's so powerful. Oh, you just been dropping gems. I'm gonna have to go back through this and pull out some what I like to call memorable bites and and lift them out for people because hopefully people are getting through the whole podcast. But I just think there are some gems that you have dropped throughout this that I'm gonna have to
So
definitely go back and pull out and just highlight for people because that is powerful. And I wholeheartedly agree with you. I believe that every step that we take in our lives, in our leadership journey, whatever we're doing, wherever we are, it is all for a purpose and it's all leading to some end, right? We may not be able to see it right now, but I am not a fan of staying in misery. And I just won't. I'm not going to do it. That's just my stance on it.
that is
Agree with
my.
you. Yeah, my joy is a priority for me.
And one more thing I need to add to that last statement, you need to figure out what your motivator is. In my case, my motivation has always been money. So if
Yeah,
the money's good,
I'm not mad
yeah,
at
you can send it to me, but not a lot.
it. Uh-huh. Uh-huh. I love it. So Desiree, tell our listeners how, if they would like to follow your journey or connect with you along the way, how can they get in touch with you?
Look me up on LinkedIn, Desiree Knight on LinkedIn,
Okay.
and just send me a message. Kim,
Okay.
something's been begging at me to say this, and I want to say this in our closing, and that is, we can't do this leadership journey alone.
Hmm.
And as you are excelling or changing the trajectory of your career, don't forget to bring others along on the journey. And what I mean by that is, I have mentees that I help talk through their career and leadership journey. Make sure you're sharing your wealth and your knowledge with the young professionals.
I love that. Thank you so much, Desiree. I appreciate you taking time to join us today. This has been a thoroughly enjoyable conversation, rich with
Yeah.
wisdom, rich with humor, all of the things. And I wish you every success and just joy on your leadership journey. And I know that people who are listening are going to glean so much from what you had to say today. So thank you again for joining us.
Thank you, Cam. It's been a pleasure talking to you. And this was another example of I needed to get out of my own way. Because I was sitting here going, what are we going to talk about? But it has turned out I have even learned some additional things. So thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you. All right, listeners, thank you again for joining us and stay tuned. We'll be back with another episode of Leadership Bites in 2 weeks. Thanks.